A lot of people think if you live with bipolar disorder, that means your life is over, or you can't live a productive life. And then, of course, another misconception is if you live with bipolar disorder, then, you can't be a mom. Which I actually heard from a terrible OBGYN. He's not the OBGYN that delivered my daughter, who is kind and wonderful. But the very first OBGYN I saw, because I lost 2 pregnancies before my daughter, and he actually said, "Are you sure you want to have kids? You live with bipolar disorder. Like, are you sure it's a good idea to try again?" And immediately I said, I need a new doctor.
Right.
This is not going to work. And that is a common misconception too. It's almost like, oh, if you live with bipolar disorder because it's a significant mental illness, you shouldn't be a mom. And I think that is something that can hurt a lot of people. And for me, I didn't let this male doctor dictate what I want to do with my body. And I said, "You're fired. Like, I'm going to a new doctor."
Hello everybody, welcome to episode 18 of the Diary Mom podcast. My name is Diana Ade. I am the founder and CEO of the Diary Mom. We inspire, educate and empower mothers who may be struggling to reclaim their dreams or who may have temporarily set aside their ambitions due to the demands of motherhood. On the Diary Mom podcast, we bring you powerful stories from audacious mothers around the world who defy societal expectations and harness their strength to juggle both roles of motherhood and the pursuit of their personal and professional ambitions successfully. Before I begin today's conversation, I want to take a moment to say thank you. Thank you to all of our new subscribers, and thank you to all who have been with us from the beginning. I appreciate you all very much. If you are yet to subscribe to our channel, please do so by hitting the subscribe button. This helps our channel to grow. Today's episode is the second and final part of our 2-part series on motherhood and mental wellness. We are honored to continue our conversation with our mental health coach, Yollanda Zhang. Yolanda is the mom, serial entrepreneur, speaker, coach, and mental health advocate who helps people live their best lives. With a background in engineering, corporate sales, and teaching, Yolanda draws from her personal experiences, including her journey with bipolar disorder, to guide others towards a more fulfilling and balanced lifestyle. If you are ready for today's episode, grab your pens and notebooks and join me as I speak to our special guest.
A very common question people ask me is, "Oh, don't you worry about what people might think when you share so vulnerably?" And I say, I have to stop and think, do I care what people think? And I have to say, no, I don't. And I think part of that is because I'm actually okay, more so now, and especially since the pandemic. I'm really okay with being alone. Like, I don't really need people who are not really in my corner to be with me. So I actually feel like sharing about bipolar disorder is the best litmus test for who is meant to be in my corner, who is meant to be in my village. Because the people who judge me or the people who are not supportive, they just naturally sort themselves out. I'm okay with that. Like, that's better. That's better than me trying to have to find out who I am meant to have in my life. So over the years, I said 20 years, during the 20 years I've shared with a lot of different people.
Right.
And not all of them are in my life now. I don't know if it's because they think differently about me once I told them about my bipolar disorder. I don't even care. All I know is they're not in my life now, and I'm better for it. Right. And so the people who remained, they are really the people who I am meant to have in my life. So the end result, I think, of sharing is I get to have really the most amazing, supportive, compassionate, open-minded people. Those are my people. And bipolar disorder is one of the litmus tests that have helped me to accumulate, to build such a strong community of people. And how could I complain about that?
That's a really beautiful story, and I want to touch on again on how you mentioned that the people, the mothers who raised you, poured into your self-esteem, and at a very young age, and so you from a very young age you were so confident, and you didn't really care what people said because you knew who you were, and you were strong within yourself. So nothing that somebody says, matters to you, and that's a piece I want anybody listening that's a parent to really take note of, because as we raise our kids, it is important that we are conscious about what we pour into them, the things we say to them, because that can go a very long way to impact how they turn out, or how they handle certain issues, later in their years, as adults. So thank you for pointing that out. You mentioned some people, since you started sharing, people come in and go, and you don't even know why. What would you say are some of the misconceptions about bipolar disorder?
I think there's so many misconceptions about mental health challenges in general.
Yeah, right.
I think, depression, anxiety are now much better understood, but the terms are still used incorrectly often. People would say, oh, I'm so depressed. I wanted to buy this dress and it didn't have it in my size. Especially now with, Black Friday coming up, I'm sure you'll be hearing some of that. And it's not that I get offended, but that's not depression. That is a setback. And sure, it could be upsetting, but it is not depression. You're not depressed. Especially now that I'm in this master's program for counseling psychology, I would say that is not a diagnosable condition.
Now you have the right terms for it.
Yes, and soon the right qualifications too. But,
exactly.
Yeah, but I see that all the time. And then bipolar is the same. I'm sure you've heard in popular media too. It's like, oh, she's so bipolar. Or, and they're actually just describing somebody who has mood swings, right? Who might fluctuate their mood. And so I think even the language that we use creates so much misconception
about it.
And yeah, for sure. And I think for bipolar disorder, it's definitely one of the conditions that is a little less well understood compared to anxiety and depression. And a lot of people think if you live with bipolar disorder, that means your life is over, or you can't live a productive life. Which is actually what I thought too 24 years ago when I was diagnosed. I thought, okay, my life is over now. I can't live the life that I had always envisioned for myself. And I think that's what my parents thought.
Okay. That's why they ask you to keep quiet and just, okay, continue.
Yeah. And then, of course, another misconception is if you live with bipolar disorder, then, you can't be a mom. Which I actually heard from a terrible OBGYN. I will not mention any names. He's not the OBGYN that delivered my daughter, who is kind and wonderful. But the very first OBGYN I saw, because I lost 2 pregnancies before my daughter, and he actually said, are you sure you want to have kids? You live with bipolar disorder. Are you sure it's a good idea to try again? And immediately I said, I need a new doctor.
Right.
This is not going to work. And that is a common misconception too. It's almost like, oh, if you live with bipolar disorder, because it's a significant mental illness, you shouldn't be a mom. You don't deserve to be a mother because you're going to be passing down, because there's obviously a genetic component to any mental illness, for sure. Just like with diabetes, just like with, different conditions, there's definitely a genetic component. And I think that is something that can hurt a lot of people. And for me, I didn't let this male doctor dictate what I want to do with my body. And I said, you're fired. Like, I'm going to a new doctor. But there are going to be women who will have the exact same interaction and may question whether they should have
a child,
a baby.
Because the doctor said it.
Yeah. Doctors hold a lot of credibility and power.
Yeah.
And even though I tell you I don't care what people think, mostly, but it doesn't mean that I don't get impacted at all. Like, I don't get impacted a lot, but there is still impact. I'm still a human person.
Yeah.
All of these things still impact me. I was really upset, after that interaction. And I think for me, that's why I'm saying there's just so many pieces of this journey that I've been on, and so many people along the way that have impacted how I look at myself, how I look at my illness, how I look at, myself living with this illness. So I think it all connects to how I am now as a person and my perspective now towards bipolar disorder. But it also makes me understand when somebody doesn't share that view, or when somebody says, things like, oh, should you really have a child? I disagree, but I can see that, I can see where that comes from now. I think I would be less angry now if I had that doctor say that to me.
Okay.
Because I would say, you know what, having gone through this for 20 plus years, I can see why you would say that now. I can see why you would say, am I sure that I want to do this? Because it's a lot.
Yeah. Wow. That's, I don't know. That's a very powerful thing you did by walking away from that doctor who wanted to dictate what your life should turn out to be because of mental illness that you had. I mean, you have been able to go through this, and you are a mom now, and you're happy. I want us to kind of demystify that misconception that people have that, oh, if you have a mental illness, you shouldn't even consider having a child, right? So what has your experience been since becoming a mother and still going through your healing journey? Because I know, like, you've gone through like a lot, on your healing journey, and you still wanted to be a mother, and you approached motherhood despite the fact that the doctor was trying to tell you otherwise, despite, like you mentioned, losing pregnancies. So how has, how has motherhood, like, how did motherhood turn out for you eventually, so that if somebody is out there listening and they're going through their own challenges, they wouldn't feel like my life has come to an end because maybe I have a diagnosis or I can't become a mother too. Like, I want you to use the experience to encourage somebody.
Yeah, I think, motherhood is so different for everybody, and motherhood is not for everybody.
Okay.
So I would say that, if it's someone who is early in their decision making about whether to become a mother, and they have a mental illness diagnosis, I would say definitely don't let that stop you. If that's the only reason that might stop you. Like, if you really want to be a mom and your only reason that you may not want to be it's because of your mental illness, I would say don't let that stop you.
Okay.
Because there are many treatment options. And of course, don't let a doctor or anyone in healthcare or any professional tell you what you can and can't do. So is what I would say. Okay. That's not okay to do. Like, don't let anyone stop you. Because there are treatment options and there are supports and there are so many ways to make that happen if it's your dream to be a mother. Okay. But on the flip side, you know, if it's someone who is not even sure about whether they want to be a mom, and this mental illness diagnosis is just one of many things that would make them not want to be a mom, and they feel guilty about it, I would say not everyone has to be a mom. Okay. Like, it's totally fine. Okay. And if you are a mom already and you're dealing with mental health challenges, I would also say you're not alone in dealing with that. Okay. And it's so important to take care of yourself as a mom. And I think moms are so bad at taking care of themselves first.
It's like we take care of everybody else and then reserve like the last piece of the meal for ourselves.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I saw that from my grandmother. I saw that from my aunt, from my mom. Like, I've been raised by generations of women that put themselves last. And that did not help me at all.
Okay. Tell us about that.
For me to be a good mom. Sorry?
Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, like, I just remember, like, my grandmother would always take the worst piece of meat or eat leftovers, and we all ate the
best
new food. Yeah, the fresh made food that she made. And, you know, my mom would be that way too, and my aunts as well. And they would, like, work themselves to the bone, and, like, they're complaining of all these pains, and they're not taking a break. So really putting them last, right? Putting their self-care last. Like, wow. I'm obviously guilty of that. I just told you about my arm injury too. Like, but I'm conscious of that now. Like, I am trying everything I can to change the narrative for my daughter. Right. Because I want her to learn to put herself first. And the only way for me to teach that to her is I need to model it. If I don't model it and I just say to her, oh, you got to put yourself first, self-care is important, listen to your body, and I'm doing the exact opposite of all of that, what do you think she's going to learn? So that's why I'm so much more conscious now of putting myself first. And even today, right before our interview, my husband said, can you help me rake the leaves in our backyard? And normally I would have said, absolutely, because I don't want him to do it by himself. You know, not that I care so much, but I'm like, what would the neighbors think? You know, why is he doing it himself? I was like, no, I can't do that right now. Like, look at my arm. I said, and I'm going to jump on a podcast interview. Like, I need to, like, just, like, regroup and rest before, and I want to arrive fresh, and I don't want to re-injure my arm. So, no, I'm sorry, honey, you're on your own. And I felt I felt a little bit of guilt, but, like, not enough guilt for me to go out there and take on a rake and start raking the leaves. So that's one really small example of putting myself first, because I think as women, we are just taught what it means to be selfish. And we think that self-care is actually selfish because our own definitions have been so influenced by how generations of women before us have defined self-care and selfish. So I'm just trying my best, even though I'm not doing it perfectly either, but I'm just trying my best to really change that for my daughter.
I find this very very impactful and kind of like coincidental, because I think yesterday I posted something from an episode that I covered, and the mom was, big on self-care, and I think I tagged it, self-care isn't selfish, it's actually modeling security for our children, because what they see, if they see that we are taking care of them ourselves, they feel more secure, and they feel like, okay, mom is taking care of herself, dad is taking care of himself, so I feel like good, because okay, nothing is going to break, mom is not going to break down someday, but I feel like good. So that's more like a sense of security, giving a sense of security for the kids when we are doing it. So it's not selfish. And jumping into this interview, you also mentioned like the same thing, so that's like more like reinforcing that, from the other mother. And I like how you kind of like have that experience, you've lived it, because you saw the mothers who raised you go through it, not prioritizing like themselves, like everybody first, and how that affected you as a child. You didn't like it. They thought they were doing it for you, and because okay, the child has to, but you also wished they had modeled taking care of themselves or prioritizing their self-care, so that you would get that kind of like confidence, okay, see that they are doing it, so you are at peace. That's very beautiful, and I'm happy you are changing the narrative for your daughter now, and this is something we want to amplify to mothers or even parents in general, because parenting can keep us on the treadmill, and we'll keep like going, and then before you know, one day you just break down and like, oh, what happened?
Yes. Yeah. And then you're no good to anybody.
You're not good to anybody anymore, and people will still move on with their lives, and then now you'll be stuck in the one place, and you'll be feeling like, oh, like motherhood took everything out of me, and all that. Thank you for sharing that piece. I want to come into like motherhood and you have a lot on your plate. What would you say has been like the biggest challenge that you have experienced since becoming a mother, and how have you navigated that piece?
I think for me, it's definitely reconnecting with my own traumas. Okay. There's nothing like becoming a mother that unearths everything that you have pushed down very deep, because you don't need to really examine it. But motherhood is one of those things that, to me, it's almost like detonating a bomb, and it just exploded. All the things from my own childhood that I didn't even know existed, or elements of my own relationship with my mother, like abandonment and like attachment injuries, like all of those things that have already been kind of pushed down, far down, that completely came up to the surface again when I became a mom. So that was hard. That was really hard. And I'm still unpacking some of those things, and kind of reconciling with changing relationships with my own parents because of me becoming a parent, and looking at the world very differently, looking at relationships differently, looking at expectations differently. So I would say that becoming a mother has really completely put a lot of things that have already settled in its place. The dust have settled, and it's like all good. It just like went like this. It's like everything is everywhere. And I have to figure out what to do.
Oh my gosh. It's like I'm getting like a vacuum to like get all the leaves out. It's like only there.
Yeah, exactly. There's nothing like a child to do that, right? To your life. And I'm saying this with so much gratitude and love. But I am forever grateful for my daughter. She is by far the most incredible teacher of my life. Hands down. There is no one like her. that have taught me as much about myself, about what it means to be human, than my daughter. And it's all that dust flailing experience, you know. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
I just like how you put it into like a visual perspective, and it's like it's funny, like motherhood takes you there, but you know, through the pain and through the challenges, we still like embrace it, and you know, we are like we are very happy. My mind is still casting back to the keynote speech you gave on Beautifully Unbroken. I like the ceramic piece that you know you picked, and I think I learned. I don't know what the name is if you can help me, like in Asian
I have it
culture.
here, actually. I actually keep it in front of my computer all the time.
Oh my gosh!
It's called Kintsugi.
It's called what?
Kintsugi.
Kintsugi. Okay.
It's a Japanese art of using gold
to merge,
fix and repair broken ceramic.
Wow.
So the end result is a much more
beautiful,
powerful, beautiful, and strong vase.
Wow, that is really beautiful, and I think I had come across it somewhere, but then when I also found it in your speech, I was like, this is so powerful, and I'm wanting us to like kind of like wrap up on that piece, because
Sure.
a lot of the times, like, we feel like we are so broken, and we feel like because of one thing or the other that has happened to us, whether it's mental health issues or like abandonment, attachment, or abuse, like so many things happen, and especially like again becoming mothers, the challenge is a lot, like you say, oh, like they're ruffling everything that has detected, you know, the dust has settled. So if we are not careful, we will feel like we are so broken. We feel like we are not good enough. We feel like, okay, this, but you made a very profound statement. Like, all of us are beautifully unbroken. When we take the time to put together all of our pieces, and then kind of mend the wounds with, you know, this beautiful piece of gold, we will come out like so beautiful, and that piece, you know, becomes like very useful. So we are still very useful in a different way. We are not broken. We are not like, you know, distorted, but we are still very useful. It just depends on how we choose to look at ourselves. Like, it's a very beautiful, you know, like picture that you put out there, an illustration, actually, that's what I want to say, that you put out there. And I want to say thank you for that. I don't know if you want to like touch on it like briefly, to wrap up on what a mother, you know, somewhere, or a parent somewhere, or anybody that might be listening to us, if they're going through like similar challenges, being mental health, be it, you know, things, because you have gone through it 20 years down the lane, you have sought the help that you need, you have something that you thought was going to shut your life down, you work through it all the way, and then now like you are standing on big stages telling your story, and it's so beautiful, and you're still pursuing your dreams of, you know, I want to become a psychotherapist, and so I'm working towards it. Like, I feel like it's so empowering, because like nothing is stopping you from becoming what you intend to be, and that is like a perfect description of Beautifully Unbroken. What words of encouragement or advice would you give to anybody going through, you know, a turbulence at this point in their lives?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'm trying to think of it as, what would I have wanted to hear? Like, even, let's say 20 years ago. Right? And what would I have really appreciated? So I think what could help is, there's a quote that, you know, my mentor and teacher, Gabor Mate, always shared with us during like our classes. And he was sharing this from his mentor and his teacher, who is also an author, A.H. Alma's. So I want to share that quote because I go back to this quote all the time. Anytime I feel a sense of insecurity, a sense of not enough, this whole not enoughness, it's huge. I'm not joking. Right on my board here, I'll take it off. I have this sign. I don't know if you can see it.
Okay, not enough. I see
maybe it's too bright.
It's a bit too bright, but I think I saw not enough on the.
It says I am enough.
Oh, I am enough. Okay, I think I see it now. I see it now.
So I should write it in a darker marker, but basically I had this on I have a board above my computer. I have this there, and I have to remind myself all the time.
I am
and
enough.
I actually have a ring that says I am enough. Wow. And it's a constant reminder for me. Okay. And I think that is the central message, I would offer to parents, to people everywhere, is that you are enough. And you are the only person who can make yourself feel that way. There's no amount of achievements, book titles, interviews, accolades that you can ever accumulate that could make you feel enough if you have this black hole of a void inside of you that you're not filling for yourself. So that's what I would say as my biggest learning and advice. And, just that we're all on our own journeys. Don't compare. Because comparison, to me, is the root of all evil.
Wow.
All right, so with that, I'm going to share the quote.
Okay.
So this is a quote by A.H. Alma's.
Okay.
And it's a quote that Gabor Mate shares with us all the time in his program. And so I'll send this to you as well.
Yeah, sure.
By text.
Yeah.
Okay, so it goes like this. Your conflicts, all the difficult things, the problematic situations in your life are not chance or haphazard. They are actually yours. They are specifically yours, designed specifically for you by a part of you that loves you more than anything else. The part of you that loves you more than anything else has created roadblocks to lead you to yourself. You are not going in the right direction unless there is something pricking you in the side, telling you, look here, this way. That part of you loves you so much that it doesn't want you to lose the chance. It will go to extreme measures to wake you up. It will make you suffer greatly if you don't listen. What else can it do? That's its purpose.
Wow. That's a beautiful quote, and let's share with me, and then I'm going to put it out there for our audience to be able to read for themselves. And I want to say thank you very much. Before we wrap up, I want us to talk about I think we've already touched on your Mandarin school and then Girl Stronger Foundation. So tell us where we can find you, and also about your coaching, because you are a coach. So maybe if somebody wants to reach out to you for coaching, with regards to mental health or anything else, let us know where we can find you.
Okay. So you can find me on LinkedIn, which is where we connected. Under my name, Yollanda Zhang. And same name, Yollanda Zhang, you can find me on Instagram as well. So those two are the best places to connect with me. Or you can email me at hello@yolandazhang.com, which is also my website. So my name, you can find me basically anywhere. And ways that I can help. One is I own a Mandarin school called Panda Mandarin, which is panda.mandarin on Instagram. And then I also run a nonprofit for girl empowerment called Girl Strong, which is girlstrong_TO for Toronto. On Instagram as well. And I do coach women that live with mental health challenges, especially women who want to be entrepreneurs, because I have experience building businesses both in the for-profit and nonprofit spaces. So those are the ways that I could help, and just feel free to connect with me, and you can book a free discovery call.
Thank you, Yolanda. It was so beautiful having you on our show today, and I really want to say thank you for sharing so intimately and so authentically with our audience today. I know lots of people are going to learn from your story. I have learned a lot. Like, I am enough. That's one big thing, and I'm going to put it on a quote on our carousel for you. Thank you for coming today, and I hope we can connect again some other time on the podcast. Talk about maybe something different that you're doing. So thank you for today.
Thank you so much, Diana. It was really fun to do this interview with you. Have a great day.
Okay, thank you. Wow, what a beautiful end to an inspiring story. Yolanda made two profound statements which really stood out for me. She said, "You are beautifully unbroken," and she also said, "You are enough." Let us know what stood out for you in the comment section. This brings us to the end of our series on motherhood and mental wellness. Next Sunday, we'll bring you another inspiring story from another mother. Be sure not to miss it. If you want to follow Yolanda, you'll find her on LinkedIn at Yollanda Zhang. You'll find a link to her page in the description of this video. You can also reach out to her via her website at www.yolandazhang.com. We want to thank you all for staying with us up until this point. If you enjoyed today's episode, please hit the like button, share, and subscribe. This helps our channel to grow. If you want to connect with the Daring Mom, you'll find us on LinkedIn, TikTok, and on Facebook at The Daring Mom. And on Instagram, you'll find us at @the Daring Mom. Thank you once again for staying with us today. And as I wrap up, my question to you is, what is your hashtag? The Daring Mom story. Join me and let's do this together. My name is Diana Ade, and I am the Daring Mom.